We love this house. We dreamed about building this house for many years. Elizabeth and I are both real perfectionists, and that I have come from working, building fine furniture reproductions and studio furniture, so I definitely have a really high standard about just how things fit together. I feel that at every turn, what they did was really up to our standards, that we really liked the quality of the way things unfolded. We felt all through the process that all of the people that he steered us to and the people that were actually working for him were just really top-notch. Philip is more knowledgeable about home construction than practically anybody else I ever met. I'd say the same about Rogan as well, that between the two of them, I don't think there's much they don't know about building a house. And at every turn, they just had great ideas about how we should do something. And it's like, what are we going to do with this area? Or what are we going to do with the front steps? Or, you know, things like that. And Philip or Rogan would say, well, let's bring this person in, or let's bring, you know, why don't you look at this or go to this place? And we just really felt that a lot of the ideas that they had really steered us to a much better end result than we would have gotten on our own. After we moved into the house, we had a young couple from the neighborhood over, and the guy was sitting on the couch and he kept looking around as we were talking, and he kept looking up at the ceilings, and finally he looked at me and he said, you know, I have to say something. He said, my whole family are trim carpenters, he said, and I've never been in a house with finer trim carpentry. And you know, I think that was a reflection of, we've gotten that back from a number of people since we moved in the house. And another story is that my furniture making mentor was over as we were doing the framing of the house, but before any of the sheetrock was in. And we were walking through just talking about what we were going to do. And he walked around and was looking at it, and he shook his head and said, you know, I don't believe I've ever seen a better framed house in my life. And I was really impressed by that. As far as the budget, that was one of the things actually that we liked the most about working with Rogan, was that at the very outset of the project, when we said, here's what we want to do and here's what our budget is, he then went and created a budget, a spreadsheet of the entire budget for the house. Since my wife is very versed in finance, it was really important to her to be able to have her finger on the pulse of the entire project the whole time. And you know, I think that we were so impressed with being able to know where we stood. And building a house is a nerve-wracking process in the best of times. And so having that assurance as we went forward was huge in our peace of mind about the project. Rogan and Philip both were really good about helping us to address problems and figuring out how to stay on purpose about finding a solution and keeping the process moving forward. He said, and in fact I remember well that he said, now if you want me to keep you on this budget, you're going to hear me say no sometimes, because you know it's very, people always want to be adding things or changing things as you go. But by having that spreadsheet of the entire budget, it meant that whenever they billed, we were able to see updates to the spreadsheet and exactly how the budget had changed, so that we knew if we went over a little bit in this area that we needed to compensate somewhere else. A tremendous amount of mutual respect. The subcontractors, this was a theme that I saw all the way through this, was that the subcontractors that we had really liked working with Rogan because they knew that he was honest and he was going to do right by them, and therefore they wanted to do right by him, and they knew that they were going to be held to a really high standard, but they wanted to be there working for him for that reason. I remember that when we completed the house and Philip handed us the keys, so to speak, that he said, okay, here's our normal process is we will, obviously in the meantime, anything that you need or anything that we need to address will come back out. But in a year, we will come back out and check on anything that's settled or anything that's changed a little bit and make sure that everything is as it should be. And sure enough, they did, but there was very, very little of that.
Right.
One of the things that I'm really proud of in this house is that we were able to make these beams, which I made, from a walnut tree that was growing where the garage is now. And I make fine furniture, so I made the beams, but then Rogan's trim guys installed them. And I think we're happily surprised that they actually worked. We just think Rogan hung the moon because we really, not that the process is without its ups and downs, and it's a very emotional process building a house, but the reality is that working with that, knowing that we had that assurance as we went along, made it a lot easier and made it a lot easier on our marriage to do it.